All right, folks. So we are going to go on in. And additionally, if you notice that you become off of mute, please do kindly, while our presenters are speaking, make sure that you remain on mute so that we can hear them nice and clear and make sure that we do not receive any echo. All right. Well, it is my privilege and honor to introduce this phenomenal panel titled Today, sharing with us about critical consciousness and artificial intelligence, assessing the impact on English education. Very relevant for the Critical Media Literacy Conference of the Americas. Thank you for being here. And now I will introduce these esteemed guests. Today we have Dr. Donna Alverman, who is the OC and EP Aderhold Professor of Education, Emeritus and Distinguished Research Professor Emeritus at the University of Georgia in Athens. Formerly a classroom teacher in Texas and New York, her research focuses on critical media literacies viewed through varying theoretical and philosophical lenses. She directed the National Reading Research Center from 1992 to 1997. Among her authored, co-authored, and co-edited books, the following relate the most to CLCMA: Adolescence and Literacies in a Digital World, Reconceptualizing the Literacies in Adolescents' Lives, Adolescents' Online Literacies. So please note that down. She is a recipient of the Literacy Research Association's Oscar Kazi Award for outstanding contributions to reading research, elected to the Reading Hall of Fame in 1999, and she is also a recipient of the International Literacy Association's highest honor, the William S. Gray Citation of Merit, and an elected fellow in the American Educational Research Association. Donna, thank you for being here. We have also Dr. Ewan McGrail, who is a professor of language and literacy education at Georgia State University. In her research, she examines digital writing, multimodal composition, and multimodal assessment, copyright and meaning making, critical media literacy and social representations in mass media, pop culture and literature. Interdisciplinary work has appeared in top ranking journals, including English Education, Teachers College Record, Journal of Research and Childhood Education, Assessing Writing, Critical Inquiry and Language Studies, Disability Studies Quarterly, Journal of Academic Ethics, and the Journal of Technology and Literacy. And recently, Dr. McGrail and colleagues have been recognized with the Richard A. Mead Award for Research in English Education by the English Language Arts Teacher Educators Elite of the National Council's Teachers of English, and the Debut Faculty Paper Award in the Law and Policy Division from the Association for Education in Journalism and Mass Communications, is a co-founder and editor of a multidisciplinary international multimodal online journal, Ubiquity, the Journal of Literature, Literacy, and the Arts, that publishes thought-provoking research and analyses of practice and creative work from urban, rural, and international perspectives and contexts. Thank you for being here. And now we also have Dr. Clarice Moran, who is an Associate Professor of English Education at App State University in Boone, North Carolina, and a Site Director of the Appalachian Mountains Writing Project. Her research interests include technology integration in English language arts, teacher education, and writing pedagogy. Authoring 4 books: Next Level Grammar for a Digital Age, Augmented and Virtual Reality in English Language Arts Education, Affordances and Constraints of Mobile Phones in English Language Arts, and Applying the Flipped Classroom Model to English Language Arts Education. Dr. Moran is a frequent presenter at national and regional conferences, and she has also published articles in a variety of journals, including English Ed, the Journal of Tech, and Teacher Education, the English Journal, and Contemporary Issues in Technology and Teacher Education. Committed to helping her students develop into successful teachers by using technology to support writing instruction. Thank you so much for sharing your time and expertise with us. Dr. J. Patrick McGrail is a professor of communication and broadcasting at Jacksonville State University, teaching electronic news, communication theory, media literacy, and video and film production. Prior to his career in academia, McGrail worked in television and radio as an actor and director. with a research program in copyright and media lit, has a keen interest in poetry, music production, and holds a number of musical copyrights. Published in Rehabilitation Psych, Disability Studies Quarterly, Journal of Academic Ethics, Interdisciplinary Literacy Studies, Innovate, Education and Informational Technologies, and more. Also a Distinguished Research in Teacher Education Award recipient, and has been quoted extensively in politics and television for national media such as the Chronicle of Higher Education and USA Today. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise on this panel. And we also have Dr. W. Ian O'Byrne, who is an associate professor of literacy education at the College of Charleston in South Carolina, whose research focuses on the dispositions and literacy practices of individuals as they read, write, and communicate in online and or hybrid spaces. O'Byrne is the author of many journal articles and book chapters focusing on initiatives ranging from online and hybrid coursework, integrating technology in the classroom, e-portfolio systems, and supporting marginalized students and literacy practices. Ian is a former middle school and high school English language arts teacher whose work can be found on his website, which we will drop into the chat, and please, the weekly newsletter, which we can also put into the chat, which focuses on the intersections between tech, education, and literacy. As our closing panel, there will be additional time added, and we appreciate you sharing your expertise. Welcome, panel, and let's go for it. We have Dr. Mary F. Rice, who is an assistant professor of literacy at the University of New Mexico, who teaches writing, pedagogy, and digital literacies, literacy assessment, and literacy leadership courses in the Department of Language Literacy and Sociocultural Studies, whose scholarship uses interdisciplinary approaches and materialist and new materialist lenses to study how literacies and identities of online teachers and learners all intersect. Mary was a postdoctoral researcher at the University of Kansas Center on Online Learning and Students with Disabilities. Mary is also an Online Learning Consortium Emerging Scholar as of 2018 and a Michigan Virtual Learning Research Institute Fellow since 2016. In 2020, Mary was part of the team that received the Creative Works Award for Innovative Scholarship, and book Adolescence Boys Literate Identity, published by Emerald Press in 2011, was named Publication of the Year by the Narrative SIG of the American Educational Research Association. Mary taught junior high English language arts, English as a second language, and reading support classes, and was a teaching English language learner licensure program instructor before becoming a professor. Thank you, Mary, my apologies. And I'm so glad to have you all here in conversation with us today. Please take it away. Who will launch us off?
Okay, so in today's presentation, we are drawing from the AI statement and framework that we recently featured in an English journal publication by the members of the Digital Literacies in Teacher Education Delight Commission. And there are many members of this commission here today on this panel. So this work is inspired by an earlier position statement, also from the Delight Commission, the beliefs for integrating technology into the English language arts classroom, which provides guidelines for really meaningful, thoughtful technology integration and language arts and literacy instruction across all grade levels and educational contexts. Our work is also informed by the critical media literacy research that pushes us really and encourages us to examine critically mass media narratives, claims, knowledge, evidence in terms of explicit and implicit agendas, viewpoints, biases, the positioning of the viewers and readers, power dynamics, and definitely more factors are at play here as well. So today, we offer the following areas for consideration concerning AI use. Literacy means literacies. Chat, GPT, and similar writing focused tools are mere literacy tools. And engagement with them really constitutes literacy practices. AI literacy will then be a necessary instructional response from educators and professionals. Consider literacies before technologies. While AI writing tools offer opportunities for co-authoring texts and other kinds of means of communication, we must also consider the limitations. So currently, AI text generating tools often produce vague and, more concerning, inaccurate text, requiring students to employ critical evaluation and revision skills as they add their own humanity, novelty, and even surprise to the text and communication that they create. Technologies provide new ways to consume and produce text. So AI tools are already disrupting our traditional ways of writing, communicating, and meaning making, as well as assessment in our classrooms. And many of the educators have begun offering new visions, new ideas for composition, alphabetic composition, as well as composition that utilizes AI tools that involves other media and modes of communication, such as audio, video, and more of those modalities. And the last point that we want to draw to our attention at the very beginning of our conversation is that technologies and the associated literacies are not neutral. Generative AI tools, like other technologies, represent and recreate the same ideological, racial, gendered, classed, and other prejudices you can continue added to the list from the corpus of data on which they are trained. So there are many critical conversations that teachers and teacher educators really need to engage our students surrounding the social, political, computational, and other implications of teaching, learning, writing, and collaborating when creating text. I'm going to invite my colleague, Dr. Moran, to take over.
Hi, everyone. Sorry, we're switching off here. I have some hyperlinks in my presentation and my slides, so we just thought it would be easier if I just go ahead and present that myself. So hang tight while I share my screen. Okay. And we have to go back through those original slides. Sorry. Sorry about that. Okay, so I am Clarice Moran from Appalachian State University, and I'm going to talk briefly about the impact that AI may have on future classrooms. So large language models, which are LLMs, these include ChatGPT, Bard Chat, Bing Chat. These can be used by teachers to plan instruction. So this is a lesson plan that was created by ChatGPT. They can also be used to provide generic feedback. You can feed student writing into ChatGPT, and this is the feedback that it spits out. Teachers can create rubrics with AI like ChatGPT. So this is a rubric for reading reflections created by ChatGPT. They can answer content questions. So teachers who may be unclear about some of the content, such as what is the meaning of Robert Frost stopping by woods on a snowy evening? You can ask ChatGPT or another LLM, and it will provide some information. They also can create assessments. This is a project-based assessment for Cyrano de Bergerac. So there's lots of applications. In addition, AI art generators, such as DALL-E, which is created by OpenAI, the same company that created ChatGPT, those can be used in the future classroom to help students visualize character or setting. So this is a DALL-E generated images of the Great Depression with the characters Lenny, George, and Curly from Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. So students can look at that and then understand maybe what those characters looked like. Teachers could use AI art generators to create prompts. So this is a prompt I created. I said an impressionist picture of two children sitting by an abandoned house, looking sad and lost. And this is what it gave me. So I could ask students, what do you think will happen to these children? How did they get here? What are their names? Anything to spark their writing. In addition, it can illustrate student writing. So this is something that was created by one of my students. She was writing a short story about a futuristic society that featured a wise old woman, and she just couldn't really grasp what that character might look like. So she created the character through DALL-E, and it generated these images, and she actually chose this one here, the one with the red cape, as her model to write about and describe her. So these are all the wonderful things that AI can do, and hopefully will do in our future classrooms. But there are dilemmas associated with this, such as ethical dilemmas. Is it okay for teachers to use AI but not students? Or intellectual property dilemmas. If you are creating a work or co-creating a work with AI, who actually owns it? Is it the teacher? Is it ChatGPT? Plagiarism issues. So ChatGPT was trained on the Common Crawl data set, which is billions of publicly available web pages. And it is imitating the voice, the style, and the work of the actual human writers in those pages. So when it's generating something, is that original or is it plagiarism? And then lastly, assignments. There's teachers who really don't want students to use any kind of AI for their assignment. So they're trying to design assignments that keep students from using it, and or saying no, students must stay in the classroom in order to create their work so the teacher can make sure that AI wasn't used. So these are all big dilemmas. This has really divided teachers into some significant camps. There's the believers, the people who believe that AI is revolutionary and is going to change the future of instruction. There's the enemies or the haters who really hate it and don't want their students to use it, and they don't want to use it. And then you have the agnostics who recognize that it will have an important impact on classrooms, but are still holding out judgment. And this is where I personally fall, and I believe many of us on this panel also fall. So I'm going to stop sharing and let Dr. McGrail share her screen again, and we'll go on to Dr. Alberman.
All right. Dr. Alverman?
Yes, I am Donna, and I am going to focus today just on one example of how generative AI tools can lead to both confusion and clarification, or as Clarice just said, sort of the pluses and the minuses in terms of how people are looking at these tools and also how they're using them. So let me begin with something that is quite popular now, and that is Substacks, which are newsletters. And if you think of those under the umbrella term of newsletters that are open, that invite openness to all sorts of sharing, that's a positive. Mm-hmm. A challenge might be, at the same time that they're open to all this sharing, by producing data for ChatGPT to mine, we are actually, or potentially, I should say, contributing to a large scale raid on individuals' creativity. Here I'm thinking of my friends who are artists and musicians with lyrics, etc., who are very not anti, but who are questioning deeply the use of AI in their lives. Also, I want to bring out that with AI tools, mining of freely streamed or shared data, it is possible for harm to be done to a creator's work. For example, if I write a paper that is very pro social justice and the chat GPT picks out different things that I've said, examples, and uses them out of context, then I could be looked at as being anti-social justice. And that's doing damage to my philosophical and research and writing ideas. Also, I think that we need to remember that, and I think it's been touched on before here, generative AI tools at this point do not possess rather a sense of social consciousness. And that, in a way, worries me big time. So what are we going to do in terms, are we going to have an evolution, a more gradual employment or use of AI, generative AI? Are we going to have a revolution where it overturns what teachers are doing now? Or if teachers overturn and refuse to use AI? Those both seem very extreme to me. I'm in a hybrid category of believing that it is okay to question what's happening right now. It's not good to say I'm anti this or pro that or whatever. This is my view. And that how fast this change is likely to be occurring, I think, is going to depend on remixing. I get lots of positive and negative views on an article that's been published recently in Digital Culture and Education. It's at the bottom of your screen. Some people feel that remixing is just a nice way of saying repurposing something and still being creative, as Clarice brought out. And others feel like, no, it's definitely plagiarism. So I wanted to know how fast this change toward remixing might have to occur. If you're looking for classroom data, etc., it's all on a Creative Commons website. You can pick and choose and remix, or you can critique it, etc. And I'm going to turn it over to the next person.
Okay, thank you. That's Dr. Rice.
Hi, I'm Mary Rice, and I'm actually an associate professor of literacy. I've been for a little bit, and so I guess my biography was old, but that's important to me. So I'm going to talk about Paulo Freire's work in conscientization and just thinking about the relationship that we have with mechanization and machines. A lot of it will draw on things that have already been said, but thinking about the ways in which mass production and machines have a way of separating us from the project that we're trying to do, and there's this possibility of where we could have no critical attitude, and then in the process, like, people become dehumanized. And Paulo himself spent a lot of money on slide projectors once, I think. It's a huge amount of money, and people question him about it, and he says, well, it's not spending the money that's the problem. It's like, what's the purpose of this? So what are we trying to do with it? Whatever is the goal, to give spaces to oppress people, or is this about self-determination to liberate? Some of those sorts of things. And where I live in New Mexico, this is important to us, to not to separate what is going on in terms of the technology with all of the other elements of the context. So in my house, in nuestra casa, todos somos hinchas de boca. So here's this water is 16 ounces. This is the amount of water every chat GPT search takes.
Mm.
Hmm.
Wow.
And this is important to us because our native peoples, the Diné or our Navajo people right now don't have any water. And our Supreme Court said, we're not going to help you get it. So it's okay to build a pipeline for a bunch of oil, right? We figured out how to do that. We've got enough science to do that. But for some reason, that technology isn't transferable to like help these people get water. And so instead they have to like bring water in a truck and try and get it out and etc. And so, and what the water's used for in these searches is to keep the computer systems cool and things like that. And so those are really important parts of this conscientization of thinking about who the oppressed are, which in schools is almost always youth. And then it's not just youth, but specific youth. And then also the communities around them of like, so let's go out onto our indigenous land with our native youths and be like, well, let's use AI to do this, that, and the other, like, while you have no water. And so that is a thing that we have to think about. And to prepare those youth as well as part of Freire's work to participate in the social structures, to build the technologies that then oppress them as well. And so, yes, participate in the yes, do this, but then also, how do we get out of that? So, and I really like, especially lately, I've been participating a lot with, thinking a lot about Judith Butler's work and her kind of, or their kind of feminism is especially focused on the fact that we all have to work in the heart of these tensions, because most of us aren't able to opt out. And so, those are the things. But the answer in the end here, over here, doesn't lie in the rejection of the machine, but the humanization of the people. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi. I guess I'm next. I wanted to mention something. We have been talking largely, although not exclusively, about AI's impact on textuality, texts, alphabetic texts. I wanted to also mention that AI is going to have a profound impact on visual synthesis. Film producers are engaged sometimes in a lively discussion about whether film is a performance art or not. And one of the supporting pedestals of it being a performing art is the fact that the acting takes place on a set and a camera's pointed and actors act. But AI could interfere with that. Film and video craftspeople have, for more than 100 years, evolved an entire work process as to how stories can best be created using the movies. And this is cinematography, lighting, sound, and of course, the input of actors themselves. AI can be trained on existing films and videos and can actually create realistic looking, completely fake performances, quote unquote. And these will not involve any of the craftspeople, which formerly were involved in the production of many of our favorite films and television programs. And now imagine a script created entirely through AI, and we have something where one or no people at all are involved in the creation of a motion picture or television program. And so that raises two very important questions. First, the creative labor of countless filmmakers, documentarians, and the associated craftspeople, will their work be rendered invalid and irrelevant? And the second question is, in the future, is anyone going to even bother creating movies from scratch? And this is one of the central arguments that the performing arts unions were contending with in their recent struggles with the film studios. They wanted to make sure that there wouldn't be AI scripts and AI performances. And I just wanted to mention that because it touches on what we do also.
All right.
Thanks.
And we are moving to Dr. Auburn.
I want to thank all my colleagues for their thoughtful remarks. My name is Ian O'Byrne. I'm at the College of Charleston. To pick up with what Patrick just indicated, that's one of the biggest things that keeps me up at night when we think about these generative AI technologies, is that I would consider myself and my colleagues makers in digital spaces. And I think that we want to hopefully create spaces where our students in our classrooms move from just consumers to creators of digital content. And my fear is that with generative AI technologies, we now are moving to having tools create and human beings basically become the individuals that are adding content to and changing the prompts for the tools to see what comes out on the other end. So we should have questions about who is in charge of whom in these spaces. And so with generative AI technologies, with large language models, LLMs, we are at the beginning of the story, but the truth is that these technologies have had an impact in our lives for some time. So if you are getting something that comes up next on your Netflix queue or something in your Amazon shopping cart, you've had technologies watching you for some time, and now it's paying attention to you. My hope is that now that we see these generative tools, now there is the opportunity to empower users to create new and novel formats. And so we need more dialogue like this. Sadly, I think we see a lot of hyperbole and hysteria, but we need spaces like this where we can talk and think deeply about what these technologies could and should do in our classrooms. So how do we do that? And we're looking forward to dialogue and questions with all of you. One of the first things would be to have working groups, such as the one that I'm blessed to be a part of, to think about what this means and focus on that ever-present topic of ethics in technology. We need to advocate for teacher prep programs for educators to test out and try these technologies to see what they could and should do. We need more research. There isn't really any research out there. It's starting to come up, but we need more opportunities for students, for educators to play with these technologies and see what they could and should do. We need to create spaces for the pilot testing of these tools. I think my dream would be to have elementary students, to have students in middle grades and beyond play with these tools to see what they think of them, and not as much what I think about what they could and should do. But then also we need more professional development, as with always with educators and bringing technology into our schools. We need more professional development, more opportunities to think and build and create together. So with that being said, interested to see what questions and comments we have. What are all of your thoughts? What questions do you have that we might be able to take a crack at?
So if you have a question, go ahead and either type it in the chat or go and unmute yourself. Feel free to chime in. There is a question in the chat in Spanish. And I'm gonna, I don't know if any of you can read it. If I try to do it off the top of my head, it would not be good, probably. Do you think that everything said can be extrapolated into different areas of education? That's according to Google Translate.
So I'll jump on this first. It's a wonderful question. At its root, AI, these generative technologies operate under this assumption that everything is knowable and there is one answer for all questions that are out there. And so if you believe that we know everything that's already happened, if you believe that there's nothing new under the sun, then these generative technologies are for you. That life can be boiled down to essential elements and positive and negative, and our interactions. This moment right here is just a byproduct of different events that brought us to this point. So if you believe that everything can be boiled down to one simple answer, then generative technologies are for you. But one of the things to keep in mind is that all technologies are created, and there are motivations, and there is money and power behind it. And so we cannot, avoid that fact. We are training these machines. So there are developers that in their worldview, a technology like this makes a lot of sense. These are the same types of individuals that thought that systems like Uber were necessary because it made total sense to them that I needed to pick up my phone and have someone pick me up and bring me someplace else. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of another part of the world, Uber pops up on an app, and they're trying to figure out, what does this mean? Why would anybody do this? Because it's a different worldview. And so the question is, do we think that everything can be extrapolated? That's at the root. That's one of the things at the root of this that we have to talk about is it possible to know everything and parse it out into different component parts? My peers, what do you think?
I have a related kind of concern in terms of, thinking of knowledge, that you made a point that, thinking that, there are things knowable, and we just need to mine this information, that knowledge, whatever kind of information you're looking at. But I think a lot of learning and a lot of wisdom comes from being engaged in a process. And if you walk a certain path, whatever creative process you are engaged in, whether you are producing a video, whether you are developing an essay, whether you are creating a musical piece, there are some experiences and there are some aha moments, and there is a wisdom that only can happen in the moment, and in those moments where you take those different steps and processes. And there is also a lot of reflection attached to it. If we shortchange that process, if we but AI is literally encouraging, to take out those processes or to diminish the level of processes in which you will engage. I am concerned about diminishing the kinds of the knowledge and experiences that we will be able to obtain from the tools that literally will limit the human experience of discovery, of being an inquirer, knowledge seeker. There are some things, as I say, that are so connected to the process, those intangible things, that then can give us an outcome and some results that we can try to kind of present as a way of explaining those processes. But if you don't walk that path, and AI tools are kind of encouraging us take away those path processes, I'm really concerned about diminishing the knowledge process.
Well, and isn't one of the things with something like ChatGPT the fact that there's so much input in it from so many different areas? So like everything from the law and everything from medicine and everything from education, and that is one of the reasons why when it puts out output, why it sometimes seems sort of soulless and general-ish. That the fact that it's not very specific to a content area or to a specific kind of thing. So on the one hand, it's like, it's very nice to go one place, but on the other hand, like not having discipline specific sorts of these tools is one of the reasons why maybe there's more problems with it.
Let me jump in and amplify some of what Mary has been saying. Everyone in this room is probably a devotee of one or more writers that we consider great. Two writers that Eva and I have been thinking about recently are Joan Didion and Toni Morrison. Together, these two writers, their prose style is so distinct that they have advanced writing by themselves. And it's because of the distinctiveness of their prose, not the kind of smooth quality of it that AI seems to have. We need distinctive voices, and we need to encourage our students to be distinctive writers. And I hope we can find a way to do that within the confines of the coming AI revolution.
Patrick, that reminds me of something I just read yesterday morning. There's a new textbook out by Faith Rover, and she's actually titled it Civic Responsibility in Our Digital Age. And she's encouraging, and I hadn't thought about this because I'm a secondary educator, she's encouraging starting with the primary grades, even maybe pre-K, working with children to learn, and I'm quoting now, that media literacy students learn to investigate rather than doubt media sources. And I like that sort of fairness there, learn to investigate rather than just say, no, this is not for me. My mother or grandfather said no, whatever. At the same time, I think without the word critical added in front of media literacy, I don't know that I could go along with it completely.
Yeah, I would just like to add to that, Donna. I was thinking along the same lines, and our session is titled Critical Consciousness, and I think that's something that all of us are really very aware of, that teachers who do choose to use AI in the classroom need to do so with that critical consciousness, just as with any kind of media literacy. If you're having students look at memes or social media rather than just instantaneously sharing or just swallowing whole whatever ChatGPT generates, having students and teachers together analyze it, break it down, look at it with some kind of critical lens, I think is one way to approach it. Pandora is out of the box. We're not going to stop it. It's here. But I think if we look at it with that critical lens, then we can sort of get our arms around it and then still encourage what Eva was talking about with these processes that are so important.
Right.
Well, but we used to do a lot of critical media literacy thinking about source. Where did, like that's how we investigated, was where's this source? And if this source is trustworthy or this source is some believable thing, then we could give it some credibility, or that's how credibility was developed. But increasingly we can't source things, and so we have to think about how we're going to use critical media literacy tools and how we're going to do evaluations on things when we can't just say, all right, let's go back to the source and critique the source.
So if we're going to pull these ideas of critical consciousness and AI and these generative technologies together, one of the things that I urge my students to think about is that ChatGPT is one version of a product from OpenAI, from a company. ChatGPT is version 3.5, 3.5 of these models. There are newer versions coming out. ChatGPT is just the name of the sandbox that they put this model into. So a model is basically, they put all this data in, so they have all the Google book scans, and then all of Reddit, and then all of Wikipedia and other spaces that they put in, and then it learns from itself. So there are different models, and there's different tools. And so as we think about, as Clarice said, as Pandora's box has already been opened, I would urge us to think about the different models that are out there. And as we use these technologies, think about who is developing them? What are the ideologies behind that? What is the money behind it? Because as we choose to interact and use these tools, we're training the tools. That's why ChatGPT and 3.5 is beautiful, because they wanted a way for ill-structured data, ill-structured queries to be used with the model. And so they just created a space where anyone can go in and ask anything. So think about the technologies, think about the tools, be critical consumers about what you're using this for. There are really, really good and really, really evil models that are out there, and just pay attention to, read the terms of service, ask questions about who is this, pay attention to the money train, pay attention to, data literacy, and think about what your information is being used to do. And the most exciting thing that I see happening now is a lot of the open source models that are out there. So we all can create our own models. We can create our own tools. There is a lot of power, and there are a lot of questions that we need to ask about these technologies. But let's think about why we're using these tools, and then what the tool is doing for us, or what it's doing with us.
Bueno, por mi parte en el chat, quiero citar a Vero Smith. Me disculpo porque anteriormente tuve un problema técnico, no la pude citar. Pero bueno, en un momento Vero agradece al equipo de traductores que nos permite acceder, digamos, a esta charla, a esta conferencia. Y ella comenta que está completamente de acuerdo, que el pensamiento crítico es lo fundamental. Dice también, y la cito, invisibilizar no tiene sentido, reflexionar con nuestros estudiantes respecto al uso de estas herramientas es importantísimo. Muy de acuerdo con todos. Y asiente a la doctora Andrea. Doctora Andrea, creo que ya estaríamos en tiempo. Creo que el tema es muy interesante, creo que abre nuevos parámetros y nuevas perspectivas que tenemos que tomar en cuenta en el proceso. De hecho, el señor Ian O'Byrne había hablado sobre lo que es Uber, y actualmente, por ejemplo, en nuestra ciudad estamos teniendo problemáticas con la aplicación Uber por la implementación y esto que comentaron todos sobre el proceso y qué genera el proceso de la IA y todas las cuestiones nuevas que vayan apareciendo, ¿no? Vuelvo a comentar a Vero Smith, que dice muchísimas gracias por esta fantástica presentación y sus reflexiones. Tenía muchas ganas de verla y agradece nuevamente a los intérpretes por hacerlo posible. De mi parte también un agradecimiento enorme a los intérpretes que con mucho trabajo demuestran y nos ayudan a acceder a estas interesantes charlas. Doctora Andrea, creo que estamos en hora, ¿no? No quiero extender mucho porque nosotros nos solicitaron que seamos muy estrictos con los tiempos. Aunque bueno, el tema entendemos que da para mucho más, ¿no?
Yes, sí, un momento. Our colleague Vero was, we were having a dialogue, really an agreement about how you are helping us unpack this. And Vero was raising that if we don't have these conversations and critically reflect from considering conversations with students around remix and impacts on the environment and these different types of evolving artificial intelligence, then our students are left to figure it out on their own or come to the conclusion perhaps that it's this way or that way. And what you all have demonstrated in depth and breadth for Vero and I, as we were dialoguing, is the importance of this piece of critical consciousness and reflection ongoing consistently with students, and that we need to model that with our students as well. I want to thank you for this riveting conversation. You all have left us with so much, and we look forward to revisiting your teachings and these wonderful resources that you have provided to us, the variation and conversations that you have provided. Our colleagues on Facebook Live would like to express their sentiments of gratitude as well as our global host in Tierra del Fuego in Argentina. We thank you for your time and your expertise, and special thank you to our interpreters and technicians as well. And Scott, thank you for assisting with our technical duties. We invite you all back to continue with us, audience around the globe, for our final day of the Critical Media Literacy Conference of the Americas. And we thank you to our esteemed panelists. Take care, everyone. And this recording will be available soon in the coming week and is available right now on Facebook at CMLCA for all. Take care and be well. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Yes, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Thank you. Yes.
much. Thank you all. This is brilliant. Thank you very, very, very much.